All right, hello, good morning, everyone. I'll get started without further ado. The sooner I start, the sooner I'll be able to finish this. I'll try and finish this in about 20 minutes. If you, I'm sorry if the video is lagging a little bit, but just please mute yourself so that it'll be a smoother experience for everyone. Um, I will try and go through this as quickly as I can, as I mentioned, because if you count the marks, there are only about 20 marks in total. This is just the end of year revision session. Let me just record the session. So this session is recorded that I can just share it with people who cannot join Zoom for various reasons later on, so that they are not missing out on anything. Yeah. So as I mentioned, it's impossible to cover a 10-month, 10-month period kind of knowledge in just 20 minutes. All right. So what I've done is I've randomly selected questions from past year paper that I thought would be relevant. As you know, fill in the blanks are very popular in combined science, not just for chemistry, but also for biology and physics as well. So you need to know your stuff. It's not as easy as you think it is. Atoms are made out of nucleus. Nucleus are in the middle, di tengah-tengah, yeah, okay. So your nucleus is in the middle, and then what you have inside the nucleus is you have protons and you have neutrons. Both of them are inside the nucleus, okay, so protons and neutrons. What you have then is you have the electrons outside. The electrons are outside in shells. So the electrons are in shell, they are outside. Protons and neutrons are very heavy. If you look back at your mid-year exam, there was a table. There was a table. Table of what? Table of mass and also charge. Those are very popular exam question as well. Okay, so very clearly what we have is we have protons and we have neutrons, and then we are surrounded by electrons. You might think that it's quite easy to listen to someone talking and explaining, and if that has worked for you, it will have worked wonderfully in the past, but it hasn't. That's why you're not scoring 100%, and therefore you need to figure out why you couldn't get to that level and try to improve yourself. Yeah. The next thing is something that has come up again and again. Neutral there means no charge. And overall, we are looking at this thing called atoms, which have no charge because the protons and the electrons, the charge cancel out. Okay, the charge cancel out, which is why when you have metals and you have non-metals, so the metals on the left-hand side of the periodic table, they will lose electrons. When they lose electrons, they form positive ions called cations. Okay, whereas the non-metals are on the right-hand side of the periodic table, right side of the periodic table, they will gain electrons. So metal lose electrons, non-metal gain electrons, they form ionic bond. All right, so when they gain electrons, you will have more electrons than protons. These are called negative ions. Okay, so in the negative ions, there are more electrons than protons because you have just received, you have just gained electrons. When an ionic bond is formed, it is formed between a metal and a non-metal. So what happened to the metal? The metal will lose electrons. If you look at the list, so electrons are lost from the metal. Electrons are lost by the metal. You always read the questions, you circle, you underline whatever you need. Question number two is to do with reacting masses. That is the very current topic that we have just finished. I keep on highlighting before that MR, this is MR, which is relative molecular mass, is for one. Untuk satu buting saja, okay? For one formula unit. Indah kira, you don't care about what number in front, okay? You just care about just for one formula unit. So when you look at carbon dioxide, dioxide there is referring to CO2, so I will write down there. MgO, so even though there is 2 in front, I write just for one formula unit because Mr is only for one thing. Okay, the Ar is given here in the questions, okay, but you must know how to read from your periodic table. From your periodic table, they give you 12, 24 like this. in your O-level periodic table, they label this as atomic number. Atomic number is the smaller number. It is actually the proton number. It tells you the number of protons in the nucleus. This number at the bottom is what you call relative atomic mass. It's stated in the periodic table. So that is exactly what AR means and not this number 12. Be very careful, yeah? But you can get it from the questions usually. So there is 1 carbon and there is 2 oxygen. So 12 times 1 plus 16 times 2. Complete your thing on your calculator. Please have a calculator ready and know how to key in your calculator. This one is 1 magnesium plus 1 oxygen, so you get 40. The next question is the very kind of questions in your work 6, very, very popular. I guarantee you 3 to 4 marks in a O-level exam. It's guaranteed, okay? So what you have is you have magnesium, you want carbon dioxide, and you want magnesium oxide. So you read from the equation. Do not just fill in the MR. No, these are reacting masses. Reacting masses are not necessarily indah semestinya equal to MR. So if I read 2 magnesium plus CO2 kasih me 2 MgO plus carbon. So kalau aku consider reacting masses, if I consider reacting masses, kalau satu buting magnesium is 24, so you ada 2 buting, so 2 times 24 because I need reacting masses. So jadi 48 gram. So this is only 1 carbon dioxide and there is 44 for the MR. So 1 times 44, that is 44 gram. Now I have MgO, satu buting is 40. I have 2 buting, so I do 2 times 40, which is 80 gram. I could do it for this carbon, which is just 1 times 12, which is 12. Okay, but I don't need it because the question doesn't ask me to. So now the question really is asking 24 gram, bukan 48 gram. Sedangkan the equation that you do is for 48 gram. So what you do is, you do 24 gram. Okay, so 24 gram will give you X. So I will consider this sekarang lagi, okay? So you just look at this one first. So if you do cross multiply, you do like that. So 48 times X is equal to 24 times 44. So X is equal to 24 times 44 divided by 48. You key that onto your calculator and you get 22 gram. Okay, so there's 22 gram there and not 44. A lot of people, they just want to fill in the blank, but they don't know what they are doing because they don't consider reacting masses where you need to label berapa buting and then you get the correct multiple. MR kali berapa buting, okay? Now, as for the MgO, what I do is I will just compare apa yang I have ready, which is 24 gram of magnesium. So there's 2 mg. Kasih me 2 MgO, so 2 times 24, which is 48 gram of MgO. 48 gram Mg, salah, give me 80 gram of MgO. So what I have is, I have 24 gram of Mg, sorry. So this gives me, perhaps I can use another letter. I will use Y, for example. So I cross multiply. The G is just the unit. Reacting masses are the unit, so be careful to think about it. So that is 48x is equal to 24 times 80. Complete your working carefully, all right? So divide by 48, and you should be able to get 40 gram. Okay, so that's it really. You can get the 4 mark guaranteed in a real exam, just like that. Okay, I will go straight to the calculation question first. I'll go straight to question number 5 first because there's the reacting mass topic, yeah? So in this question, what we have is we have methane. Methane was first covered. The name itself you need to know. The formula itself you need to know because they were under covalent bonding topic. Covalent bonding topic, you learn that carbon has got 4 electronic configurations. Hydrogen is just 1, so you just share 1 more electrons. This one needs to share 4 more electrons. So what you do then is you have these carbons forming 4 covalent bonds. The dot and cross for not just CH4, but all the other things stated in the syllabus, NH3CH4, H2O, HCl, H2, N2, O2, etc., etc. All of these are stated in the syllabus from your notes on covalent bonding. Anyway, jumping straight onto the question. So in an exam, you just do what the question asks you to do. These are just for revision's sake. You need to know a lot of things. Methane, the formula is given, CH4. Carbon dioxide, the formula is given is CO2. So the AR is given. Make sure you know how to read relative atomic mass from the periodic table as well. There is one carbon, and there is 4 hydrogen. There is one carbon, and there is 2 oxygens. So 1 times 12 plus 1 times 4, do that on your calculator, you get 16. We don't put gram for relative molecular mass because MR is for 1 unit. Okay, we are not talking about reacting masses, we're talking about MR. Next up, we have carbon dioxide, 1 times 12 plus 16 times 2. You do that on your calculator. You know that, oops, sorry, I shouldn't do that. You know that it's the sum up the relative atomic mass. MR, the definition, the meaning is total up, sum up, okay? Sum up the relative atomic mass. Now, the next question is reacting masses. Pasal you wanted you to think about masses. Methane is CH4, carbon dioxide is CO2. Look at the equation. Look at the equation. So what you have is 1 CH4, nada number in depan, it means it's 1 CH4, kasih you 1 CO2 because I want to compare with CO2. So the MR of methane is 16, so it's 1 times 16, which is 16 gram. Why do I show times 1? Because reacting mass ini penting. You have to consider berapa buting di depan, okay? There is 1 CO2, so there is 1 times 44, which is 44 gram. Do not just use the MR, consider the number in front based on the equation as well. Now I have 4 gram of methane, so 4 gram of methane. How many gram of CO2 do I get? I do cross multiply. So 16 times X equal to 44 times 4. Atau you boleh buat 4 times 44 is the same story, okay? So I move the times 16 to the other side, and then I just press my calculator. I'll get 11 gram. As I mentioned, guaranteed 3 to 4 marks in a real O-level exam. No questions asked at all, provided you know what you're doing, okay? So next up, I'll go straight to the other question again, which was question number 3. So we have a magnesium atom. Magnesium atom meaning no charge. So the number of protons equal to number of electrons, as I mentioned in the first question. Show the electronic structure. The other name is called arrangement atau configuration. It wants magnesium ion. This is 282. It's a group 2 metal. Group 1, 2, and 3 are metals. Metal loses electrons. Metal loses electrons, and they lose 2 electrons because they want to get to magnesium 2 plus, which is just 28. You have a fully filled outer shell. Outermost shell is also known as valence. So what I do then is I just show like this. You can of course show the dot there as well if you want to, but as long as you show that it becomes 28, it should be okay. What you have next is you have to put the charges, because we know that when you lose electrons, you will become positively charged when you lose electrons. But you also get the marks here. State the charge. Nyatakan the charge saja, you get 1 mark. Okay, so you need to be very careful being able to do all of these from your previous exercises as well. Next up, you have nucleon number. Nucleon number is also known as mass number atau nucleon number. This thing is basically equal to the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. So sekiranya you know the nucleon number. Magnesium atom. Magnesium is element number 12. So 12 and 24. This is in your periodic table. But then you have to give it to the international format, which is what they're asking here. So the international format will have the nucleon number 25, bukan 24, because 24 is relative atomic mass according to your periodic table. Sedangkan this one is saying nucleon number is 25. So nucleon number or mass number is the number on top there. The number at the bottom is still the same, is still the proton or atomic number. So macam mana akan dapatkan the number of neutrons? Once I know this format, I know it's just the nuclear number minus the number of protons, put it onto a calculator, and this will give me neutrons. Neutrons campur protons, kasih kau nukleon. Keseluruhan everything what you have in the nucleus of an atom. On to this next question. What you have is a metal plus acid reaction. This is in your chemical formula and equation notes in the very last part of the thing there, in the last part of your notes. Okay, so the very last few pages of your notes on formula equations, I gave you like 5 general equations, and this was also tested in work 3 under reacting masses as well, yeah. So what you have is you ada dua buting. So you have 2 times NO3. HNO3 is nitric acid. So nitric acid will give you nitrate salt. And this is salt, and this is the hydrogen gas, which is diatomic. Diatomic means 2 atoms covalently bonded together. 2 atoms that are bonded by covalent bond. As you know, hydrogen, they just form a single covalent bond, both of them full outer shell. So dua buting sini, you cannot change the number here, but you can change berapa buting ada keseluruhan. That was part of work 3. So you have 2 of them. So now you have 2 of the NO3, which balance that. And now you have 1 magnesium, and you have 2 hydrogen atoms. So that balance the other one as well. So that balance the 2 hydrogen there. Balancing equations sometimes are very important for you to do the next part on reacting masses. So these are the very last question that I'll go through in this tutorial. So these are arrangement of electrons. These are arrangement of electrons in atoms. Kalau you have atoms, number of protons equal to number of electrons, because the positive charge of protons get balanced out by the negative charge of electrons. We know that in arrangement of electrons, we fill the first shell first. So this is the first shell, and there's the second shell. So the first shell, maximum is 2 electrons. If you look at your periodic table, from hydrogen to helium is 2 electrons. And then the second shell, from lithium to all the way to neons, will fill up to 8 electrons. Then you go to the third shell. The third shell goes from sodium all the way to argon, and it can fill another 8 electrons. So here you fill second shell, second shell, second shell, third shell meaning period 3. Period mean you go across, this is period. You go across a periodic table. Now what does this number in front at the back tells you? So 1 there refer to 1 valence electron. Ada satu buting elektron di luar. 1 valence meaning 1 outermost electrons. If you have 1 electrons in your outermost shell, that means you are group 1. So group number is up and down. So this is group 1. This is group 5. Okay, V refers to 5, and this is group 8. So VII. This is group 1 because 1 outer shell electrons. This is group 3. And this is group 7. Okay, so group 3 Roman numeral is just III. Now each letter may be used once, more than once, or not at all. Which element? Element meaning atoms. Well, single atom, 1 type of atoms only. Okay, tetapi it can also be diatomic, such as hydrogen as an element, because it's not stable. It's not stable on its own, so they are diatomic. There are also other examples. O2N2, Cl2, Br2I2. These are all diatomic because they contain 2 atoms. Di refers to 2 atoms bonded covalently. Proton number 17, so it means the number of electrons equal to number of protons, which is equal to 17. So mana satu yang add up, total up to 17 electrons. 2 plus 1 is 3 electrons, not 17. Go on and on and on. And you can see 2 plus 8 is 10, 10 plus 7 is 17. So we're looking at Z, which is element number 17, proton number 17, electron number total 17, because element, single atoms, number of protons equal to number of electrons. Which element combined with 3 hydrogen atoms. Combined with 3 hydrogen atoms form covalent. Covalent compound means non-metal sama non-metal. Non-metal and non-metal, they share electrons. Sharing of electrons will give you covalent compounds. Properties dorang banyak ya, okay? Cannot conduct electricity, whether they are solid, liquid, or gas, and then low boiling and melting point. Those are all from your topical test on covalent bonding and ionic bonding previously. So these are group 1. 1, 2, and 3 are metals. So 1, 2, and 3 are what you call metals. And then we know that group 4, 5, 6, 7, they are non-metals, including group 8 also. But then group 8 are noble gases. They are non-metal. Dorang single atom saja, pasal they don't form any bond at all. Do not form any bond at all. Not ionic, not covalent. Okay, I'll go straight to the next one first. Does not form an oxide, meaning it doesn't form any bond with oxygen at all. And that has to be the noble gases because they already have fully filled out the shell. Already fully filled out the shell, noble gases, okay? Fully filled out the shell, noble gases, all right? So I remember a while back when we did chemical formula, we talked about valency. So valency of noble gases is 0 because they do not form any bond at all. Okay, so when you want to combine to get formulas, you consider that 0 because they don't form any bond at all. So which means does not form an oxide has to be the noble gas. Noble gas meaning fully fill outer shell, yang penuh, so it has to be W, which is the noble gas. Going back to the previous questions, they want the same group. Same group. Same group means same number of outermost shell electrons. Pasal they're in the same group. Okay, so group 1 as well as group 1. Okay, you can see one outer shell electrons. This is period 3. First row, second row, third row of the periodic table. Each row is called a period, but they are group 1 because they are in where they have one outer shell electrons. They're in the same group there. So U and X are in the same group. On to the very last questions, which I'll finish off now. So Y and Z, what is the formula of the compound? This is stated in our current topic on chemical formula. If you look at Y, it's 283 and it's 287. Y and Z, 283 and 287. By looking at the outermost shell electrons, I can see that this is a group 3, is a metal, and then this is a group 7, it is a non-metal. So we know that metal and non-metal, metal loses electrons, and then you will get Y3 plus because you lose the electrons, and then it loses it to the non-metal. Non-metal ni, kalau partnernya metal, it will gain the electrons. So non-metals will gain electrons. How many electrons will you gain to complete your outer shell? You already ada 7 buting, you already have 7. So you just need one more electrons, Z minus. Not Z3 minus because you are group 7. Cuma memerlukan 1 lagi. This one you lose 3 electrons. So what happened then is, what you have is valency. Valency, this one, depends on the charge. 3 because it's plus 3 because it's group 3, loses 3 electrons from the group 3 metal. Here is 1 because group 7 gain 1 electrons to give you a fully filled outer shell. Okay, so what happened then is we cross multiply and then we get 1 and 3. This tells me how many, berapa buting ya. So this is Y3 plus, this is Z minus, Z minus, Z minus. So I have YZ3 just like that. So what we get is YZ3. Dot and cross, on the other hand, you will have Z as like this. So if I show cross, cross, and then I have cross, 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 cross. This one are the original electrons, yang original, okay? So ada 7 buting yang original, and then what I have is I accept 1 buting electrons yang dari the metal, and then I become a -1 charge. I mesti ada 3 buting, 3 of these, to receive 3 of these dot that the metal loses. This is not asked in the question, but this was from the dot and cross from ionic bonding topic. All right, it's now 12 o'clock. This is the end of this tutorial. So I'll share this video and I'll share the PDF with the group chat later on. anything you don't understand, you can rewatch it, and then you can revisit the PDF and text me if you got any questions. All right, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. That's it for today's class. Okay, make sure you'll be able to do on your own, yeah?